The Week in Review with David Davis. Welcome to the Week in Review, our first back after the Easter recess. It may seem that politics went on hold, or at least Parliament went on hold, but politics certainly didn't. We've seen, unfortunately, thousands of junior doctors go on strike with really serious consequences for our constituents. We've seen the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, something really close to my heart. I was back on a IRA death list back in the day for nearly a decade, and so I really followed that very closely at the time. And of course, we've seen some rather unfortunate goings on with the Scottish Nationalist Party and their both internal issues and judicial issues in Scotland. Well, let's first deal with the SNP. The chief executive was arrested some time ago, and then just in the last couple of days, the party's treasurer, Colin Beattie, was arrested by police as a part of their investigation into missing money in the SNP finances. Nobody's been charged yet. The investigation is going on, but I have to say, it looks like a real crime scene in some of the areas they're looking, with forensic tents and Lord knows how many police vehicles outside. So clearly the police are taking this very seriously indeed. But in a way, this shouldn't be entirely a surprise. We've seen these dramas play out repeatedly in Scotland. You had the 50 million episode with the Rangers Football Club before it went bankrupt, where clearly the policing and judicial system didn't work in Scotland. We saw the judicial problems over the Alex Salmond case, which I still think is an unsolved scandal from some points of view. Now we see this latest episode with suspicions, at least, of some degree of financial impropriety, with missing money and very strange purchases, with on the one hand the SNP being short of money, less than £100,000, on the other hand they appear to buy what they've termed a battle bus, but which actually looks like a rather upmarket motor caravan, which I can't see being any use in a political campaign whatsoever. All of this is going to run for months and months, and I suspect, like the Alex Salmond affair, it's going to come back to the House of Commons, if only in the German debate, with me going over the facts in some detail at some point soon. Some of the dramas were abroad, of course, and the Russians sentenced Vladimir Kara-Murza, a Russian and British citizen, to 25 years in prison, essentially for criticising the Russian state, criticising the Russian government. This was a disgrace, and it was talked about in the statement, an urgent question in the House by Andrew Mitchell, a Foreign Office Minister. But as I said to him at the time, I think we are too soft on the Russians here. And in practice, most other European countries have expelled Russian diplomats since the start of the Ukraine war for a variety of reasons. We should be equally tough.
My right honourable friend talks about seeking out and sanctioning the individual officials, but this is an action of the Russian state. Yeah. It's not an action of individuals. Since the Ukraine war, the major countries in Europe have expelled between 27 and 45 diplomats. Is that not a measure we should be looking at now with this respect?
Yeah.
Yes, so was that.
Well, my right honourable friend, as ever on these matters, makes an interesting and important point. We have to balance the national interest on how we pursue our diplomacy, and obviously we keep these matters under review. But in view of his comment, I will take another look at the issue that he has raised.
Another foreign issue that's blown up this week, but with implications for Britain, is the massive leak of intelligence data by an American National Guardsman, it would appear, or at least that's the allegation. Now, this is not new. I mean, the problem we're looking at here is the Americans being incredibly cavalier with intelligence data. After all, the Julian Assange massive leaks were obtained from Chelsea Manning, who was a young soldier, I think a private at the time. mean, you have to ask, why are these very junior soldiers, in one case a reservist, being given access to huge amounts of internationally sensitive data? It's just not sensible. Similarly, Edward Snowden, I mean, I actually approved of what Edward Snowden did in terms of releasing the data and telling us how much we were being spied upon. But nevertheless, the Americans took it very seriously after the event. But the fact is, he was a contractor. What was a contractor doing with access to all that data? And this is a real serial problem. And it has implications for us, because one of the bits of data, or purported data, that came out was that British Special Forces were engaged in Ukraine. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but if it is, and it's been put out by the Americans by accident, that's a major failure of international cooperation. And it comes back again to the fact the Americans are cavalier about their control of secret data. They can't complain if they don't do a proper job of looking after the information which we, after all, trust them with. Back at home, I mean, the junior doctor strike is probably the biggest and most immediate issue in front of us. And, you know, all MPs have constituents now who are facing delays in their operations, delays in their treatment, delays in their scans, real difficulty getting into hospital because they're sitting in A&E for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day just to get seen. This is really serious, and I raised the matter in the House of Commons with the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it seems clear that the junior doctors' strike is causing serious risk of loss of life and certainly causing harm and pain to thousands of our constituents. The first line of Hippocratic Oath is first do no harm. When does the Prime Minister think the BMA abandoned this central tenet of their profession?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for his question. We value the work of junior doctors and are keen to find a fair and reasonable settlement which recognises their role and the wider economic context facing the UK. He's right to highlight the impact on patient safety, and that's why this government has brought forward minimum safety legislation to ensure that patients can rely on a core level of emergency service to protect vital patient care. That's something that we on this side of the House support, but I know is not something that's supported by the party opposite.
This week in the Lords, they began the line-by-line scrutiny of the online safety bill. Now, we had a lot of changes to this in the Commons. Indeed, we took out the very dangerous, legal but harmful concept, the idea that somehow either the state or big corporations should be able to make judgments on what we're allowed to say. I mean, viewers of this channel may remember that I actually got cancelled for 24 hours when I talked about vaccine ID cards. And I was seen to be an anti-vaxxer or whatever, or conspiracy theorist, all of which was nonsense. And very quickly, YouTube put it back up. But it was symptomatic of the sorts of problems that we're veering into all the time now, and the attempt to take this completely unregulated space, really, of the internet and make it safe for various people. Now, often with the best of intentions. Now, what's really outstanding in the Lords on this front is the whole question of preserving or not preserving end-to-end encryption. In pursuit of protecting children from inappropriate content, a very worthwhile aim, what the state is aiming to do is to require the companies involved to basically unencrypt our messages to each other in order to, as I say, protect children. But there are other ways of protecting children, other ways of dealing with the sites that you don't want children to access if need be. But what this is proposing to do is really, really dangerous to the normal operation of communication, normal communications. So ask yourself, if you've got an open encrypted system, where's your privacy gone? Well, you know, we're often promised privacy by big corporations. Only last week, Tesla was in trouble because supposedly private or confidential photographs from Tesla cars were being circulated by Tesla staff. We've heard it time and time again of people looking inappropriately at open communication. At the most extreme end of this, our financial systems depend on complete privacy, complete confidentiality. And if you allow decryption at any level, whether it's at the web center or whether it's in transmission, you risk some very, very serious breakdowns of systems, and the world's financial systems depend on this. So you have to think very hard about this, and the Lords, I think, will challenge quite stiffly the government's demand so far for relaxing end-to-end encryption. Indeed, I think some of the big corporations are saying, we don't want to be in this bit of the business if that's what we have to do. And that will be also quite harmful to society at large. All right, well, that's it for this week. As I say, we're back to work now. If you enjoyed today, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, all of the above, and we'll see you next week.